And I just want to welcome everybody to another special session during a night with Newhouse. This exclusive night of resources is sponsored by SI Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University. And we are so happy to have our guest speaker, Margot Lee, here with us. And I'm just going to go ahead and share a little bit about you. She's going to be teaching how to leverage your social media skills. And Margot is a Newhouse alumna and an influencer that has a YouTube channel with more than 440,000 followers. Wow. And subscribers, sorry, and an Instagram with more than 190,000 followers. I actually followed you earlier and it was 197. So woo. She has worked with companies like Sephora, Fossil, Victoria's Secrets, Pink, Glossier, and Amazon. And she just graduated last year. When she's not working on her own web content, she helps other companies or accounts improve their web presence. Margot will lead this panel with other Newhouse students, Adrian and Caroline, who are freelancing, interning for companies and helping them with social. And they will share how you can use your social media skills to land a similar opportunity. So thank you so much for being here. I'm the new executive director here at STN, and this is so fun for me to get introduced to so many people. So take it away, Margot. I'm going to add Adrian and Carolyn in while you start speaking.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and to everyone who's here tonight, thank you for joining. This is a really cool opportunity for me, and it's a great way to connect with people who might be interested in Newhouse in Syracuse and my experience, and Caroline and Adrian's experience with social media. We'll get into that. So if you guys have any questions, I believe you can just drop a chat throughout this session and I will be answering them as we go, or at the end, we'll save some time for Q&A. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you again for having me. Newhouse, such an honor. And I'm so proud to have gone to Newhouse. So yeah, I wanted to start this little talking event, whatever you call these Zoom panels, off with sharing a bit about my story. So if you don't know me, or if you might follow me on Instagram or who knows what, I'll just back up and give you guys kind of the nitty-gritty story of how I got to where I am today and what I'm doing now as a Newhouse alumni. So I actually started my social media career back in high school. So I had a YouTube channel with my two best friends, and it was super private. It was kind of before like YouTubers were a thing. We were watching, I think they were like music videos and a cappella, and we were doing everything that we could, and we just fell in love with it, and we had so much fun with it. And this was early high school. And one of them decided she didn't want to do it anymore. The other one went to a different school. And I decided that this was something I was really passionate about and I really wanted to continue doing. I had no idea what was in store for me. I didn't have any goals for myself. It was just something that I had a lot of fun doing. And it was kind of my creative outlet. I'm really bad at painting. I'm horrible at drawing. I love writing, but I'm not very good at it. So I finally found something that I felt like really gelled and I had a lot of fun with. So I created my own private YouTube channel. I didn't tell a single soul about it. And I uploaded videos probably weekly. I wasn't really paying attention to consistency, but my channel was slowly growing. I think because I had a YouTube channel when like being a YouTuber and uploading consistently wasn't as popular as it is today. So I was having a lot of fun doing that. And then I remember my junior year of high school, I woke up to a Facebook post on my home page or my feed that somebody found my videos that went to my high school. And she posted it on my Facebook page. And I remember waking up to like 15 likes on the page. And I was like, oh my God, my life is over. I had to decide if this was something that I wanted to keep doing and kind of just brush that off. Or if I wanted to just brush it under the rug, pretend it never happened, and people would forget about it in a week. So I obviously chose to keep doing that. I found something I was really passionate about, and that wasn't going to stop me. So fast forward, I went to college. The summer before I went to Syracuse, I was looking all over the internet for dorm room tours and a day in the life and what to wear to class and all these lifestyle things that I just needed like a cool older sister to show me the way. And there was nothing. I think the only room tour that I found on YouTube literally looked like it was filmed on a potato, and it was not helpful at all. And I just remember being super anxious and nervous going into that. So it wasn't really a strategy move, but I knew I wanted to share my experience, at least going to Syracuse and sharing what that first experience of moving into a dorm was like. So I filmed that day. I had a lot of fun doing it. And that video blew up. It now has over 1.5 million views. Even when I posted it, it was getting a lot more traction than any of the other content that I was posting. And I realized that I kind of fell into this niche of being a college lifestyle YouTuber. I didn't know anything about niches. I didn't know anything about college, but I knew that it was something I was passionate about and it was doing well. And that was the first time I really understood that analytics were really important. So, what I was posting, the title of my videos, how often I was posting, how I was interacting with other creators, that's when things started kind of chugging along. Um, I actually collaborated with a few of my friends who also were in Newhouse to make videos. So my dear friend Michael Bonavita was sweet enough to let me do a room tour in his apartment or his dorm. And it was really great to kind of finally feel this community of people at Newhouse that kind of got what I was doing and supported this crazy path that I was on. Um, so actually my freshman year, I took a class required for all Newhouse students called Com 117 with Professor Corey Takahashi. I didn't know anything about the class. I just knew I had to take it. And I was a go-getter student, so I always sat in the front row and really excited about everything I was learning. Actually, Michael was in that class, so that's how we got connected. And it was the first time that I actually connected with a professor who really believed in me and believed in what I was doing. Um, because I'd kept it so private when I was at high school, I never really had that opportunity to connect with professionals or professors or teachers or mentors because I never really opened up to that side of me. To those people. So it was really encouraging when I got to Newhouse to know that these people that I looked up to and that were teaching classes were actually learning things from what I was doing. So that was really a pivotal moment for me. And it was a time that I felt so confident in my decision at Newhouse, and really supported and encouraged to keep doing what I was doing, even though I had no idea what I was doing. So I kept making videos throughout college. I was able to go abroad. I went to London. So if you guys listening are thinking about coming to Syracuse, I strongly urge you to do abroad. Hopefully, that will be an option by the time that rolls around for you, given COVID guidelines and safety. But that was one of the most incredible experiences. And also getting to share that online was really special. So that's kind of my college experience with YouTube. No complaints. I was able to balance doing YouTube and being a student because I thrive being busy. I'm not gonna lie and say that it was easy or I didn't have late nights or I didn't have breakdowns and it was really stressful, because it was none of that. I had breakdowns all the time. I always questioned myself. I never really knew what I was doing, and I had to make a lot of decisions about priorities and what I was going to spend my time doing, which I think a lot of student entrepreneurs have to decide. And just going back to why Newhouse was the right decision for me was a lot of times it was really hard, and I had to stay up really late to finish an assignment or meet with a group and finish a YouTube video that I had due for a brand, or I just knew I wanted to get up. But I also felt really supportive where if I had to leave for an event that was really important to me, or I had to travel for a last minute trip pre-COVID, obviously, I always felt supported and I could always kind of find a way to make everything work. So that was all really great. So yeah, I graduated and I graduated magna cum laude, which is really exciting. And I'm really proud of that, that I was able to support my grades while also continue to pursue something that I love doing. And that was also supporting me financially. So that was really exciting. And now I'm working at a startup started by Julia Haber, who's also a Newhouse grad and who I met in Corey Takahashi's class freshman year when she was pitching her club. So really comes full circle. I know this is the beginning of a long career journey for me, and I wish I could tell you what direction I'm headed, but I really have no idea. Um, yeah, that's kind of a bit about my path and my journey at Newhouse, and I wouldn't change any of it for the world. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel about my journey. I'm happy to get into more of the business side of social media because I'm sure that's why a lot of you guys are here. If you're interested in starting your own thing, whether it's influencing, content creation, content strategy, I'm going to first speak to my own experience about working with brands and then doing marketing for this startup I'm working at. And then I will pass the mic over to Caroline and Adrian and ask them a few questions because they kind of work with social media a bit differently than I do. So I think it'll be great to hear their perspective. So, also just a really quick reminder, you guys can drop questions in the chat whenever you want. We will get to those at the end or as we're chatting. So yeah, feel free to do that. So working with brands. I was probably a freshman in college when my YouTube channel really started picking up and brands started reaching out to me and offering to pay, which was both really exciting and really intimidating because none of my friends were in this space. I couldn't really find any like mathematical models of how much I should charge. And I didn't know who to ask because I was new to this space. I was on the East Coast. I just didn't really feel like I had that support system from like an influencer standpoint. So a lot of it came down to really late nights, trying to figure out my rate, signing contracts without somebody looking over them and really teaching me what everything meant. And I'm actually really glad I had that experience. So that was my freshman and sophomore year. I was doing all of my brand deals independently. I think I remember consulting my parents for some of their advice. And I love my parents to death. They're the best, but they both work in real estate and influencing is not their sphere. So really it came down to trusting my gut. I'm really grateful for those 2 years that I was able to work with brands and kind of hone that business side of being an influencer because it made me appreciate the business of influencing a lot more, just knowing how much back and forth goes between every decision, the rate that you're paying, what content is being made, any adjustments. A lot of that I still deal with now, but really being in the thick of it was really great for me because I just appreciate the business a lot more. So I remember the middle of my sophomore year, I started getting some requests to meet with managers. And that was really pivotal for me because I realized that if I wanted to do this and make money from it, it needed to be a sustainable business for me. And if I wanted to continue school, which was really important for me, then I needed to figure out a better way to balance this. So I ultimately went with the management that I actually am with still to this day. They're called Select Management. They're based out of LA. I lucked out because my manager moved to New York shortly after I started working with her. So time difference was no issue. And I was able to meet up with her quite a bit in those first few years, which was really great building that relationship. But yeah, I've worked with some really incredible brands. I've quite literally traveled the world because of influencing. And when I think back to when I was a young girl and I was talking to a fake production set in my kitchen when I was making homemade pizza with my family and telling myself that I was going to be in a job that let me travel the world. And all of these things just seemed so crazy and out of the picture. Fast forward 8 years, or well, I guess it's more than 8 years since I was doing that. But fast forward to when I'm graduating college and I'm actually living that dream, and that's my day to day. So it's been amazing. I guess this is my quick shout to anyone who has passions and dreams. Sounds so cliche, but follow them. If I didn't decide my sophomore year of high school that this was something that I really loved, then this wouldn't be my life right now. And granted, there are lows and it's a business. I think a lot of people just see it as frills and fun, but yeah, it takes a lot of work, but it's the best job I could ever imagine. And it's great. So yeah, I've worked with Amazon. I've worked with Fossil. I have worked with Sephora Collection. I'm actually working with them for my second year this year. And I've traveled to Germany and Tennessee and California with them and gotten to know their marketing team. So from like a networking perspective, not only am I networking with other influencers whom I love and created great relationships and friendships with, but I'm also working directly with marketing teams. So now if I was interested in a job at Sephora Collection, the head of marketing is actually a Newhouse alum. So that connection comes in really handy there, and we've bonded over that. And she really pulled for me to be on that team because of that. So just another kind of Newhouse full circle moment. But yeah, that's a bit about my story. I work for marketing. I do marketing for a startup called Home from College. I'm going to plug Home from College quickly because it is an incredible company and it can benefit all of you guys. So Home from College is a digital startup, tech startup company designed for college students to make your life a lot easier and give you the opportunities that you feel might be out of reach on a campus, especially given this virtual world. Some things are harder to do in a traditional sense. So we're there to kind of bridge that gap, connect you with really dope people and really cool companies. We have micro internships and it's the best. And it was started by a Newhouse alum. So definitely check us out on Instagram at Home from College. We're doing really great things and we're building a really cool platform that I'm excited to launch in mid-May. So keep your eyes out for that. So with that, I am going to bring the wonderful Caroline and Adrienne into this conversation so we can hear a bit about their work with social media, because they kind of do the other side of social media where it's more behind the scenes, but really important and might be a lot more work than people consider social media to be. So Adrienne and Caroline, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
So, hi, Adrienne. Adrienne is actually my sister, so she's in Tri Delta also. So it's good to see you.
You too.
Virtually. But I'm going to have you kick off and just, if you want to share a bit about your position at NBC, kind of how you got there and what you're doing there now, because it's really impressive that you're doing that as a student.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm an NBC News out of 30 Rock in New York. I'm an intern with the social news gathering team, which I didn't know what that meant when I initially got the internship. But basically, social news gathering is exactly what it means. It's news gathering. So it's getting stories from around the country, around the world, getting videos, pictures from social media. So we specifically use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram to reach out to people to interview and stuff like that. So we are considered reporters because we're reporting, but with social media. I got this internship honestly by chance. I didn't have a ton of experience beginning, but I had my first internship with Univision out of Miami my sophomore summer, I think. And I had no experience going into it. I didn't do any clubs at school, and it really was like by chance that they picked me for that job. And after I had that internship, they kind of just kept coming. So I did a program with Newhouse, which is called Newhouse NYC. I highly recommend it. So I didn't go abroad, but basically it's abroad, but out of New York City, and you take Newhouse classes and you intern during the day. So while I was there, I was interning with NBC Social, which is different in the sense that I was tweeting from the NBC News accounts and posting on Instagram. So that side of social. And then after that, I went to CNN and I did social media there as well. And I was tweeting from Anderson Cooper, Aaron Burnett, Don Lemon, all of those shows. And then I ended up at NBC Social News Gathering. So this is my last internship, but I wouldn't have gotten it had it not been for all of these. But I think like the biggest takeaway was that, I mean, I'm a broadcast major and I actually went to STN when I was in high school. So shout out WHS News. I participated in it for a long time. I was an anchor, reporter, and I just thought I was going to be on camera. And I thought with broadcast, you can report, you could be behind the scenes, you could be a producer, you could be a writer, and that was it. But these internships really showed me that there's just so much more. I mean, there's social media, like this is part of it. The Snapchat team is one team, Twitter is something else, Instagram is another beast. So there's so many more things you can do with broadcast other than what you guys, think. So yeah, I got into social media because it was the one internship that I guess I got off the bat, and now I love it and I kind of want to do it. So we'll see where we go.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on doing all of that as a student. Really impressive. And I'm sure you also have a lot on your plate. So that's really cool. I also love what you were saying about how you didn't even know that that was like an option. And I think that's kind of part of growing up is you realize how many jobs are out there and how you can really mold your future and your career to your interests. And even if it's something that you weren't expecting that you would love, you can kind of, it just all falls into place. So I'm really happy to hear that you're enjoying that.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm going to switch over to Caroline for this question. So Caroline, you are at Understood, I believe it's called, and you're also running social media for them. So if you want to explain a bit about how you got there and your path and what you're doing there now.
Yeah, definitely. So I started interning at Understood just a couple of weeks ago. It's a new, kind of a new organization. It's focused on individuals with learning and thinking differences. So I kind of went through my time at Newhouse kind of reflecting on what I wanted to do, maybe post-grad, and a social impact organization was something I kind of was leaning a little bit more towards. So kind of wanted to look into that experience. And I actually saw the position on LinkedIn, and I went through and kind of saw if any Syracuse alum, or specifically Newhouse, worked at the company. And I found two individuals, and I reached out to both of them and got in contact with two of them. And one of them is actually my manager now, and she was a TRF, a television, radio, and film major like myself. So it was interesting to hear from her because I kind of wanted to figure out how she took her television, radio, and film background into the organic social media realm. And it allowed me to kind of realize that maybe that is where more of my interests align. And I think going off of what we've been saying is in Newhouse, there are so many avenues you can take within different majors. And I think that's an important thing to reflect on. And now I'm operating the YouTube, Facebook, and Pinterest accounts, but specifically mainly YouTube and Facebook, which have allowed me to kind of use my video skills also, like with my TRF background. So it's been a great experience so far. And I appreciate Newhouse kind of got me there. So I can owe it all to that, but it's been great.
Awesome. Well, I think what's so interesting is all of us come from different majors. So I was an advertising major. Adrian, you were a BDJ major, broadcast digital journalism, and then Caroline is television, radio, film, and we all landed in social media in one way or another, which I think is a really important lesson for anyone going to any school at any point in their career, college journeys. Is I think it's easy to put a lot of pressure on your major, and feel like that's the be all end all, and that's what you're going to have to do for the rest of your life. So choose wisely when you're in that one advisor meeting. But that's just not the case. And there are a lot of classes that, even though we're all different majors, we've all taken the same core classes, and that kind of builds your foundation. And then, of course, you gain more niche skills based off of that. And that's when the major comes into play. But you can really kind of work your way into any career with that solid foundation. So love that. So Adrian, I am going to go back to you. My question for you is there any part of your job that you weren't expecting, or somebody who might not work in social wouldn't really expect about that, since you didn't like see yourself going into that? What has surprised you about that industry or kind of position?
Yeah, I think something that I definitely want to stress, that I think I just, again, got really lucky. My social media has always been really clean ever since I was a kid. And that's so important getting in the future, just in anything, honestly. Like, even if you're not working in social media, it is your brand, whether you're an Instagram person or not, or you don't use Twitter. What you portray is out there forever, and it matters. So I think that really helped me a lot. And I guess that's what I didn't expect when I've been working in social media, is that people look for stuff. People are really you have to kind of expect the worst. And all of our accounts right now, I use my personal Instagram to reach out to people. I've never had it on private, and it's on private for the first time because people can be mean and stuff. So I think the biggest lesson out of all of it was, don't put something out there that you don't want found. And just be mindful that, the internet, it's a big place. There's a lot of different types of people on there, and not everybody loves the media. So it's really cool to be able to DM someone and be like, hi, I'm a reporter with NBC News. I would love to interview you. But it's also really scary because you don't know how they're going to react. And it's important to like keep calm and stuff. So I think that's the really big thing, that I just thought being in the media was so, so cool, but it's not all just daisies and butterflies. It's also kind of scary, and you have to be protective of yourself and stuff. So
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the interesting thing about a communications major is inherently you're communicating with people, and you're putting yourself out there, whether it's in a public space or even if you're behind the scenes and you're making decisions that are going to be seen in the media or by even one person or thousands of people. Every decision you make in communications has a repercussion. So even when it comes down to like, what is your personal brand and how are you showing up, that's really important. I'm going to plug something I was just working on quickly because it kind of relates to this. I just launched a podcast called Working Title, and the last episode I did was with Christian Navarro, who's done branding for SoulCycle and Spotify. He's such a genius. And we talked about branding, and what I think is really interesting that ties into what you just said is you have to be very aware of the way that you're articulating your values online. And especially when you're working in media, the way that you're showing up can translate to what your job is going to be or how you're perceived in your job. So anyways, I think that's a great answer and good food for thought, especially for people coming into college. So Caroline, I'm going to pass that question to you. Is there anything about your job at Understood that you weren't expecting or that's kind of caught you off guard?
So I think in the past, when I've been working on social media, I've been very solo oriented, and it was interesting coming into this position how many different teams I have to work with, and kind of, I guess it also can go with what product or what the organization is. But when our product is a site and it eventually will be an app, it kind of goes on that I have to work with other teams to make sure that their content is aligned with what should be exhibited throughout the platforms. And I guess it's good to know about every facet of the organizations and kind of learning about what other people in the industry do. And it just was kind of eye-opening for me.
Yeah. Makes me think of, I just graduated, but I know in Newhouse there's like a gazillion group projects that you have to do. And when you're doing them, you're like, why do I have to do these? Like, why do I have to go to Newhouse at 11 p.m. and meet with this group? But once you graduate, or once you're working in these team situations, you realize how valuable it is to know how to work on a team and communicate effectively. Even if you disagree with people or you think your opinion is better, those skills, like, I really think that Newhouse puts us in these group situations, not so we can get a better grade and really like know like the nitty gritty things, but soft skills and learning how to interact with people and compromise and pull together a final project is like so important. So hindsight 2020. Awesome. Okay. I have one last question for you. I wrote it down. Let me find it. Yes. Okay. Do you have any tips for incoming Newhouse students or just college students, people who are coming into the realm of college? What advice would you give them? Caroline, we can start out with you.
Yeah, I think as I came into Newhouse undecided, similar to you, Margot. I found that the intro to storytelling kind of shifted my perspective, kind of gauged where I wanted to land. And when I went television, radio, and film, I kind of thought, oh, I'm going to be working with cameras all the time, going to be every do. And there's honestly so much you can do with the major. I took a lot more business classes that I didn't think I was going to take my freshman year. Now looking back, it just took a totally different avenue than I had anticipated, but I enjoyed my classes. And I think if you're trying to break into social, just kind of to play around with all the different social media platforms, kind of know the ins and outs, but also look into those other platforms such as like data analytics and those types of things. There's just so much you can do with it. And I think it's a really cool industry to be in, and it's only going to grow.
Yeah, great advice. I decided to minor in the iSchool, and I took a few classes in data analytics, and it was so helpful. And like finding that kind of merge between Newhouse and iSchool was really great. And I think you would be able to find that with any major minor, like even Whitman or engineering. I don't even know if you can have an engineering minor. That would be really intense, but you can always find kind of a cool balance. So like what you were saying, there's always more to learn and like dig into, especially in certain classes. So I love that. So Adrienne, what advice would you give incoming students?
I would say don't psych yourself out with your major. I've done broadcast in 6th grade at my high school. So with the same teacher, I've just been reporting forever. And I came into Newhouse as a PR major, honestly, not even knowing what PR is. And the reason was I, of course, thought that there was 3 jobs in broadcast, being a camera person, being, and I was just scared that I wasn't going to get a job out of college. So I went with PR. And within like the second week of my Com 117 class, I think it was, my professors were like, you need to switch your major. Like, you need to do TRF or you need to do broadcast. And I spent the whole semester freaking out about how I didn't really like PR, but I thought it was the better route to take. And I switched because professors kept telling me to switch. And it's been clearly the best decision because, I mean, I've gotten so far in broadcast already. So I definitely think it's best just not to come in with any assumptions about any of the majors and try them out. Like if you can you get like 2 Newhouse electives, take electives in other majors and like figure out what you like and do it as soon as possible, because sophomore year comes and you have to choose your major. But for real, like try as many things as you can, get to know as many people as you can, because I know my roommate chose advertising because all of her friends did advertising and she loves it too. So what you pick at first doesn't have to be the major that you stick with. And if you don't like it, then change it and it's fine.
Yeah, I totally second that. I actually came into Newhouse as a BDJ major. So I started with broadcasting. And then once I saw that I had to take like an 8-hour class every Wednesday, I was like, peace, I'm out. I'm going to advertising. And I loved advertising, but you'll find your groove. And like we said, you'll find your path regardless of what major you are. Great advice. So I'm going to shift over to some of the questions that people have submitted. If you guys haven't put any questions in, you can feel free to keep adding those and we will get to them. But I'm going to start with a question from Gracie Yu. What was your favorite class at Newhouse? So I'll start with this and then I'll pass it over. My favorite class, I always forget if it was my junior or senior year, but it was with Professor Sean Brannigan, who, if you guys go to Newhouse, even if you don't take any of his classes, go to his office, introduce yourself. He is a powerhouse and knows like everyone in the world. So get to know him. But he teaches a class called what is it called? Trend spotting in digital media. And it kind of just changed the way that I think, essentially, which is like a big blanket statement, but it's really about always having your eyes and ears open of what's on the horizon and how can you look at things and adjust their use case so it becomes viral. So I remember, I think it was my junior year, so that was 2 years ago. And Sean Brannigan was like, everyone download TikTok, use TikTok, like it's going to be huge, like just get on it. And all of us were making fun of him. We were like, okay, 6-year-olds are on that app. It's so weird. That's not going to be big. And of course he called it. So really interesting class. It's called Trend Spotting in Digital Media. And I recommend anyone who has the opportunity takes that class. It's really great. Adrian, I'll pass it over to you. Best class at Newhouse.
So it's a requirement for BDJ majors. I don't know the class code, but it's like radio reporting. I took it my sophomore year, I believe, and I had a really, really difficult teacher. She was probably one of the hardest teachers I've ever had in my life. But it was the first time we were kind of getting into newscasts. So we were basically running a full show, but it was all via radio so that you didn't have to worry about like getting ready and going outside and filming and stuff. It was like the first basic intro we got to broadcast. And because she was such a difficult teacher, I became friends with my entire class. We also have a group chat to this day. People graduated and we still talk in it. We complain about the news together. It's very nerdy and cute. But I learned so much from her, and I needed her to be like that difficult teacher because she actually has a background in law. So she taught us a lot about like what's illegal, what you can and can't say in broadcast. So if you come to Newhouse, I highly recommend Shelvia Dancy. She will scare you, but she will get you into shape and she'll make you the best journalist you definitely can be. So
that's awesome. Caroline, we'll pass it over to you.
I was trying to think. I think production management was probably my favorite class that I've taken in Newhouse. I think that was my junior fall, and I think that was the first time it kind of exposed me to the different realms you can take within working in film. And I worked on the marketing and media team, which kind of sparked my interest in social media. So it allowed me to kind of see the ins and outs of how a movie or television gets promoted and kind of the whole process behind it. So it was really interesting for me.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to find another question. All right, Maddie G asked, when you were applying to college, what drew you to Syracuse / what advice do you have for high schoolers starting the college search process? So Caroline, I'll throw it back at you.
So my older brother actually went to Syracuse, so I kind of got to see a little bit of it before applying and just kind of see if like the people were kind of like me, or just kind of if I would fit in, or just if it was the right place. And then while I was visiting him one time, we walked around Newhouse, and one of his friends, she showed me all the cool little spots that you can just like go, food.com, which I always stay there, but it helped me to decide that that's where I wanted to go. But I was also someone who decided late, kind of more like April, but I'm so confident in my decision. Love it here.
Cool. Adrian, what about you?
I actually came to Syracuse pretty unknowingly. I had no idea that Newhouse was a good school or anything. But my senior year of high school, I went to STN, and I met Professor Rose at one of these panels, basically on one of the little booths. And I talked to him, and one of our alumni from my high school actually came to Syracuse to Newhouse, and he did TRF as well. And I honestly just came because he was the only person I knew in one of the schools that I applied to. And it just all worked out. I ended up loving it. And I'm from Miami, so it was a really big change, but it worked.
Awesome. Yeah, I love how in Syracuse, it's a very snowy city. I think at one point it was the snowiest city in the US or some crazy stat like that. But you still have people from Miami and LA who just absolutely love it. So that should speak volumes. But I chose Syracuse mainly, well, I was looking at schools in LA because that's where the YouTube community was. And I was thinking pretty short term, if I'm being honest. And I got into schools there that I really liked, and I toured them. But everyone I talked to when I was going to these schools, or I knew people who went there, were kind of deterring me from going there, but I still really wanted to go. But they were saying people leave for the weekends, and there's no Greek life, and they do this, and this, and none of it really aligned with what I wanted. But I kind of like blocked all of that out because I was so set on going to LA and being in the pretty aesthetic and being with other YouTubers and getting into that world. And my parents, thank God, were like, you need to go to Newhouse, just check it out, just do us a favor. I think they also wanted me on the East Coast because I'm from Connecticut originally. So we drove up. It was an April day, and it was hailing, and April should not be hailing, but it was a gross day. Snow was probably up to our knees, and everyone I talked to on campus was like, you need to come here, like it's amazing, like get a big jacket, you'll be fine and you're gonna love it. So I think at one point I kind of had a light bulb go off where maybe it's good to take people's advice from time to time and actually listen to what people are saying. And it can be different for everyone, and you can be hearing different things for different schools, and that's totally valid. But for me and what I was looking for, it just would have been really stupid of me not to pick Newhouse. And I'm so glad I did. That was my kind of decision story. Okay, Anna Doherty. Hi, Anna. Anna has a great question. How do you keep up with the ever-changing social landscape? Thinking about the crazy rise of TikTok, competing features like Instagram Reels and YouTube Stories, and now Clubhouse is on the rise. Great question, and I'm actually going to pass this over to you guys because you have more of like a corporate lens on this and how NBC and Understood are dealing with these like rapid rise and decline of social platforms. It's really interesting. So Adrian, if you want to start this off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was at CNN last summer, and we were trying to get onto TikTok. It's the whole thing, but we're human. Everybody who works there is human, and we find out about things as like the kids find out about things. So right now it's Clubhouse. None of us know how it works. We're all downloading the app, trying to figure it out and stuff. But it really is just by word of mouth and trying things and seeing what works for the brand or what doesn't. I know that CNN, we had all of the interns, we were just tasked with making TikToks as if they were going to be for CNN on our own platforms. So we could report, or we could make cute little like graphic videos, whatever we wanted, as long as it had to do with news. and we would just see how they would perform. But the whole deal was that it had to, align with CNN's brand. And yeah, it's a ton of testing and just finding out what comes and goes. And we just try to be on everything because obviously like we want our brand out there as much as possible. So that's really it. We're just trying our best.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it actually is really valuable to know that huge corporations like NBC are also figuring it out. Like, granted, they have hundreds of more people to figure it out and have eyes on what's working and what's not. But this is why like content creators and influencers and singular people can have so much power, because we're all playing the same game. Maybe I don't have 100 people behind me like telling me what works, but we're all testing things out. So I think that's really reassuring if there's people who do want to be aspiring content creators or start your own business, small business, that you have the same tools that NBC does, which is like insane and probably the first time in media that that's an option. So take advantage of that. Caroline, I'll pass the mic over to you.
Yeah, Adrian kind of touched upon it the same we kind of analyze it the same way. It's kind of trial and error, kind of seeing what works, what doesn't, and just kind of making sure that we're keeping on track with the latest trends, especially I guess the company that I work for is a little bit older demographic because it's a little bit catered more towards educators, but they're trying to find new ways to keep their students engaged. And especially with staying at home all the time, there's a lot of kids who are kind of always trying to find new things to do. But I think just keeping track of the latest trends and playing around with it is just kind of the best way to go.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to try to get through some of the questions quickly. I know we're the last panel, so we can go a little bit over, but I'm going to try to end around 9-ish. So we'll try to go through these kind of rapid fire. Okay, Ireland, beautiful name, asked, I'm a journalism student in my junior year and having a hard time finding and achieving internships. How does one achieve internships? Where can you go to find internships, and how do you gain experience? Again, really quickly, just because I spend night and day working on this, I'm going to plug Home from College. It's a platform designed to kind of solve that problem for students. We're listing micro experiences for students, and this is a really competitive landscape. So if you want to find micro experiences to figure out what you really like and build relationships with brands, I'm biased, obviously, but I think that's a really great option. But for you two guys who are students and have really successful internships, if you want to drop like 1 or 2 tips how students can find internships and utilize their networks.
Yeah, I would just say Google. I think I just Googled like broadcast internships Miami when I was first starting off, and I just applied to everything, whether it was a big company or not. So I think my first time I applied to like 80 internships and I didn't hear back from like 70 of them. So I think just apply to everything.
Yeah. Caroline.
Yeah, I would say Google, Indeed's really good. LinkedIn, I like to heavily use, but also just making sure that if there's something you're interested in, talking to different people, kind of building up your network, just learning what other people do and if that interests you. But those kind of are the best tips I have.
I also don't want to overstep because I really haven't been like a full-on student during COVID, and don't really know like the landscape that well. But from my experience, don't be afraid to create professional relationships with professors and ask them for advice and ask them what internships they know about. Newhouse has a great program, at least in the advertising major. That's what I was getting. We would get emails pretty much weekly of new positions that were open. So using that, going to professors to be the first ones to hear about these, because there's a reason they're professors. They have networks and careers of their own. So really leaning on that, and don't be afraid to do that. Okay, I'm gonna answer this quickly. Madison Snyder asked, Margot, what advice would you give to a senior who's graduating in May during COVID-19? I know you dealt with this last year. Really quickly, my advice would be to don't be too harsh with yourself and don't set up crazy expectations. It's great to have goals and set up a loose timeline for yourself, but this is such a shifting landscape and no one really knows the best way to go about anything right now. So be kind to yourself and know that we'll kind of get through this together and just do the best you can with the cards you're dealt. Okay, I'm going to pick some of these. I'm sorry, there's some great questions. Okay, let's see. Lena said, just listen to your podcast on influencer branding. What advice do you have for small business trying to grab the attention from brands and other influencers? Great question. Be bold with what you're doing. Follow trends to kind of gain traction, especially on TikTok and platforms that that value that, but also do stuff that's different. We're seeing so much of trend following and everyone doing the same thing until it's the next thing that everyone's doing. So if you can stand out and come up with your own ideas and blaze your own trail, that's going to be a lot more effective than doing what everyone else is doing. If you guys have anything else to add to that, please do. Okay. Let's see. Do you have any advice for interviews? I'm actually going to pass this over to you guys because a lot of my jobs I've gotten through just networks. So if you guys want to talk about the interview process and if you guys have any tips for students.
I can start. For my most recent position, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of reached out to a woman on LinkedIn, just kind of cold called, emailed her. And we talked a little bit, and at the end, she had mentioned that there was an internship program. And if she wanted me to maybe take a look at my resume, that she would do it for me. And then I went through 3 to 4 different rounds of interviews. And I think a good tip is just to make sure you research everything about the company, everything about the person you're meeting with, and have really thoughtful questions prepared, because those stand out and it'll show if you're really interested in the internship opportunity or not.
Mm-hmm. Coming prepared.
Yeah, I think Newhouse has been super helpful in this in terms of professors, and also we have something called the CDC, which is Career Development Center, and they're always available to answer questions and stuff. But I've emailed the CDC all the time. I email professors all the time, freaking out, and everyone's always super willing to help if you're gonna get a question and you don't know how to answer it. But I think the biggest thing for me is to be super honest and yourself, because I think that the reason my internships have been so successful is because I got along with my team really well, and that came from me being myself during the interview process. And I know for this internship, there was a lot of skills that I just didn't have or didn't know, and I was very open to them during the interview process. I was like, I have no idea, but I'm willing to learn, and I can figure out how to do it this way if anything. So I think being honest with them, they'll appreciate it, because at the end of the day, it's going to save them time and it shows that you're willing to learn. So yeah. And then what she said, of course, is researching the company, especially if it's news. Always know your top 3 news stories of the day.
That's awesome. I remember I think it's Comp 107, that I think everyone has to take. You have weekly quizzes of they'll ask, it's kind of a pop quiz, but it happens every week, but it still hits you off guard every single time. But they'll ask you pop quiz questions about stories in the news. I did not do very well at that, but I'm sure Adrienne, you did better. So Caroline, I'll direct this question to you. Did anything outside of classes and being in school help you with the jobs that you needed for your current internship?
Yes, I heavily involved in the women's network on campus, and I actually got into working on their marketing team for the national organization, and kind of working on their TikTok. Still working on it this semester too, but those experiences kind of helped a little bit.
Awesome. Adrian, if there's anything you want to add.
I would just say little things, just like her. I honestly didn't do too much on campus. I'm barely part of any clubs, to be honest, but my mom has her own business and I run her social media, and that was my one experience on my resume. So I think just like anything you can do, whether it's your mom's friends or whoever you can help out, like those are experiences too, whether they're formal internships or not. So that's really it.
Great answer. I'm going to answer, other than there being a pandemic, what is something you wish you knew about the transition from undergrad to postgrad? It's obvious and it's cliche, but once you graduate, no one is going to tell you what you're supposed to do. So really lean on your support system. I think in school, even if you feel really lost and confused, you have a schedule, you have semesters, you have classes that you know you want to do well in, certain projects, maybe things you're working on at the time. Once you graduate, there's no one setting a timeline for you, no one telling you that you should be at this job from this part of your life to this part of your life. And you can look at it two ways, where one, it can be really scary and intimidating, and the other where it's really liberating. And I have my entire life in front of me and I can choose how I spend every single day when I wake up. So I think I tend to think about the more intimidating side and making sure I'm making the right decisions. But I think if you're waking up every day and you're happy with what you're doing and you're working towards something, even if it's a short-term goal, that's really important. And it's okay to ask for help and lean on your college network and friends and family, because it can be a little overwhelming at times. Okay, let's see. There's questions coming in two places, so I want to make sure I'm hitting all of them. A lot of questions on blogging, which is really interesting, about, do you need to be on YouTube or Instagram to be an influencer? Can you be a blogger? I am probably going to be the bearer of bad news and say that blogging is not as sustainable in 2021 for content creation. The sad fact of the matter, which I'm sure Adrian and Caroline know, is that short form content performs best. And that's kind of what it comes down to. I think it can definitely help to build a bigger picture and tell a fuller story, especially if you're more comfortable doing that there. But I would definitely suggest anyone who's interested in blogging has kind of a secondary platform to promote that or gain followers, just because blogging is not a really supported platform in 2021. This could change. There could be a niche that I don't know about, but that's kind of my experience in social. All right, I'm gonna ask one last question. This is from student, so anonymous guest. What are some of your goals for the future? So Adrian, we can start with you.
I just want to figure it out.
Same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing social right now, but I definitely think I still want to be on camera. So I'm probably going to MMJ, which is, I think you guys call it backpack journalism, which is where you film, edit, and do your own, videos. So I think I'm going to do that in local news for a little bit, see if I like it. And if I don't like it, then I'll move to New York and do corporate, which is fine with me too. But yeah, I think I'm just being nicer to myself and just understanding that I don't need to have a path right now. Like Margot said, we're super, super young and we have years to make mistakes. So yeah, I'm just going to try everything that I can.
Awesome. Great advice. Caroline, what about you? What are your goals for the future?
Similarly to Adrian, just kind of figuring it out still, hoping post-grad things kind of open up a little bit more, and kind of seeing where this internship opportunity takes me, and seeing if I really enjoy it, if I want to continue down that path or get back into entertainment, just kind of see how it goes.
Awesome. What are my goals for the future? I think, yeah, I think this past year has just taught me that you can make anything you want out of life, and there's going to be harder paths, and some goals are going to be a lot loftier than others. But as long as you are surrounding yourself with people that bring you up and inspire you, and you're working towards something that gets you really excited every day when you wake up and excited to wake up the next morning, at night, then that's really all I can ask. And yeah, I think that's it. Just be happy. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. You can find us on social media. I believe I am tagged on the Newhouse SU Instagram, but if not, my Instagram is margot.lee. If we didn't get to any of your questions, if you guys want to plug anything else, you're welcome to do that now. No, we're good. All right. Well,
No, sorry.
You're good.
No, I was just gonna say my Instagram is my name. I answer people's questions all the time, so I'm super responsive to DMs if anything. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
it.
mine's also my name. Do you have any, whatever?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. This has been such an amazing night. And thank you, Newhouse, for having us. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you, ladies.